Hello, Oracles, and welcome back to a special edition of our live stream today. We have Curious Pejjy and Farzad on today. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
Oh,
I'm doing great.
fantastic.
Oh, sorry.
Fantastic over here. Things are going. They're going. You know, we were just speaking about shit shows, and here we go. The most entertaining it could possibly be.
I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so used to hosting like these things, and I'm not used to being a guest. So when I hear "How are you doing?" in my head, I'm like, he's asking me. Sorry, dude. I apologize. That was very embarrassing.
It is okay, yeah, because you're on here. You've always got some big ones on here. He's got Farzad's got Dan Ives coming on next, so guys got to watch him.
I was like warming up in my head.
There we go.
Sorry, dude.
Oh yeah. So we've got we'll start off just with Investor Day going on next week. So Farzad, if you guys don't know, he is hosting a big event down there as well. We were just discussing that. So I mean, if you want to go into what you guys are doing, Farzad, go ahead and shout it out here because I know we were just discussing that to start.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I there will be more news on this later today, but I am going to use this platform to sort of bring everybody up to speed. If you are in town or planning to be in town in Austin, Texas on Investor Day on March 1st, Clive Bar in downtown Austin on Rainey Street will be hosting an all-day event where investors, Tesla fans, or whoever wants to be part of that sort of event can come to Clive. And you'll be able to watch me host this sort of thing all day. It starts at 2 p.m. Central. We'll have the Investor Day live streamed and the Q&A as well on big screens on the bar. And then we'll have post Investor Day discussions. We'll have panels later in the and this whole event will be live streamed on my channel as well as other panelists' channels as well. And at the end of the show, this is still being finalized, but the folks that will be on the panel that I'll be hosting. So, and if you want to see them live, if you're in Austin, and I'll give you the link to share as well, Tim, because people have to sign up to this.
Okay.
We're gonna have Sandy Monroe. We'll probably have Corey as well, Steuben from Monroe Live. We'll have Dave Lee. We'll have Dan Ives, and we'll have Pierre Farragut. So. Awesome. So far, those are the confirmed folks. It might change here and there the closer we get, depending on people's travels, but that seems to be quite locked in. So if you want to watch that live and you're in Austin, I'll give you guys a link to go sign up for that right now. And if you do want to watch it from home, it'll be live streamed on my channel. So all you have to do is just follow my channel on YouTube, and you'll get it. Thank you.
Fantastic. That's a phenomenal lineup. And don't forget to watch Sandy dancing, because I heard last year was a glorious time. So you got to watch Sandy out there. So now, and I've been trying to pay attention. When is Tesla doing the live stream themselves for it?
Yeah, so from the looks of it, don't quote me on this, but from the looks of it, it'll be sometime around 3 p.m. Central.
Okay.
And it will go for roughly 2 to 2.5 hours is what we're hearing. It's not confirmed, but that's what we're hearing. And so there will be about an hour pre-show before that, and then after the panel, their investor presentation's over, then we'll do another 3 to 4 hours of coverage up through that sort of panel that I just mentioned. But it seems to be around 3 p.m. Central is what the time is.
All right, cool, awesome. Yeah, I wasn't sure how they were going to run it, if it was going to be an all-day event or if it was just going to be an evening type thing like they've done in the past. So.
Yeah, it does look like they'll have like, and I just shared the link for people to sign up for this thing live in Austin in the private chat. Awesome. There is, I'm sure, I believe that the event itself at Giga Texas will have like, ride-alongs, and they'll have tours. And I think afterwards they'll also have some sort of meet and greet. So if you have a ticket to that, that's probably what you're going to be expecting. But if you are not going there, again, you can either come to this event live in Austin and Clive Bar, or you can just, again, follow my channel and we'll have the whole thing live streamed.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's great too, because I know not everybody can get in. So at least, and to a lot of people, hanging out with the community is just as good, and from what I've heard from some other people, sometimes watching it live stream is even better. So I think that's fantastic. So yeah, if you guys are down there, I'm also trying to find anybody who actually does have tickets to get inside. So I want some boots on the ground so I can get some on my live stream. We'll be able to get some live footage from inside. That'd
be sick. Some remote journalists out on Giga Texas on Oracle Live. I love it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So if anybody's out there, let me know, and I'll get you on the channel here so we can jump in when you guys are down there. So what do you guys think that they're going to be announcing at this? Obviously, we know that Elon has spoken about Master Plan Part 3 scaling to extreme size. People are anticipating we're going to be seeing the Gen 3 platform. Is it actually real and now going to be producing things? Is Gen 3 part of Project Highland? What do you guys think we're going to be getting out of all this?
Let me go first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do a screen share because I was interested. I mean, I was quite intrigued when I saw this person on Twitter mention this guy named Joe. I don't know why he deleted the first tweet, but he said that he spoke to someone who works in Tesla. And this is what he had to say. He said that March 1st is definitely revealing a new vehicle. He hinted that being the obvious thing, robotaxi capable, is my take. And he's seen sketches of it. Based on his reaction, I'm betting this thing is going to blow our minds in some ways. Model 3 refresh is a separate thing. So, I mean, I personally, I didn't think they were going to reveal a new vehicle. I think what they were going to do is like, hey, this is the new platform. This is the skeleton of it, and we're still working on it. We don't know when we're gonna be done. Maybe 2-3 years time. But apparently, according to this guy who's working in Tesla, he's saying that there is going to be a new vehicle revealed. And then he continues to say that I tried to ask if the vehicle could also be a van. He smiled and said, "You'll have to wait and see till March 1st. March 1st is more about battery supply and than the actual vehicle, which makes sense." He thinks the vehicle won't be produced for a few years as battery supply constraints and everything. So that was very interesting to me because, damn, we're gonna apparently see a new vehicle. I don't know if this is true or not, but this is according to this person, Joe. It was interesting to read. What do you guys think?
I mean, definitely interesting. I didn't think we'd actually see a new vehicle. I mean, I know last time Farzad and I talked, it was discussing if they're going to come out with a compact car or something lower priced. Seeing what happened in China with like everybody just pushing off their orders, it's almost like they'd have to say, hey, we're coming out with this vehicle and it's being released like tomorrow, or they're going to see a lot of cannibalization going on and people pausing orders. But if it's the van that they're going to be revealing, that's totally different because that could go on the Gen 3 platform. That could be like the Cybertruck where it's not going to cannibalize anything. It's a totally new vehicle. So that's possible.
Yeah, shout out to Joe, first of all, for putting that out there. However, I do have concerns about that tweet. So on the two tweets we read are kind of like fighting against each other. In the first tweet, can you bring it back up again real quick for me?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just I'm a little confused by the messaging. So in the first tweet, he said that it's definitely going to be a battery being unveiled, and then in the second tweet, he says it's also about battery supply than the actual vehicle. He thinks vehicle won't be produced for a few years as battery supply constraints everything. And so I think that sort of lines up with what was just said, where I do believe if they do show an actual car, unless they're ready to build this thing immediately, or there is a significant separation between this compact car and say the Model 3 or the Model Y, there will be severe cannibalization and offboarding. I really do think so. And so if it does get unveiled, say quote unquote early, which would be next week, then we should expect it to be maybe like a 2-seater or like a 4-seater where the back seat is like basically one of those, in a pinch settings where you can barely stick a kid in there, it's going to be super, super tight.
Like the S10.
Yeah, it's going to be super tiny. You'll have a small trunk. Obviously, you'll have a small frunk, but it'll be super affordable and will be optimized for 1 to 2 people in the car, getting around as cheaply as humanly possible. So if they can show that, then they might be able to, paired with the Model 3 refresh with the Highland, that creates really good separation between the Model Y and the 3 and this new compact car, then I could see it. But I still feel like what's more likely to happen, this is just my opinion, is that they'll unveil some sort of platform along the lines of, hey, this is how we're thinking about the chassis, the battery, the drivetrain. It's going to be able to be scaled up and modular, maybe to this sort of van thing or whatever. Maybe we'll put 4 batteries together. I don't know what they're going to unveil, right? But the purpose will be, but we'll have a platform that's going to be almost infinitely scalable, long term, or really, really easy to scale long term, so that we can get to 20 million cars per year globally as cheaply as humanly possible. And maybe they'll have a slide where they show, and this is the kind of car that's possible. This is the kind of car that's possible. Oh, and as the closer we get to shipping these cars, we'll do a presentation of what they look like, and we'll go with it. Or they'll just say, screw it, let's just show it all, and production next year. If you want to wait until then, great. If not, but then that opens up a host of other questions. And obviously, it will be incredibly exciting. And I think a lot of us would be like, oh my God, this is amazing. But then you start running into, okay, but you better get this thing out as soon as humanly possible. And especially with like Cybertruck ramping as well in parallel, that they have to get straight. Seems like a lot, but Tesla is known for doing amazing things. So who knows?
So here Angus is asking, how much do you think that $25,000 vehicle will cost to produce?
Yeah. I actually put out a video about this on my channel yesterday. I think 20,000-ish makes sense. I think they can get to 20,000. Because one of the comments that was made was, okay, in the Q3 earnings call of 2022, Elon and the team said that they're going to get to roughly half the cost to produce for this model compact car. And if you look at the average cost of goods for a Tesla today for the entire lineup is about $39,000. That includes a much more expensive S and X and the Y, obviously, which is going to be a little bit more expensive. Actually, 3 and Y are going to be about the same cost to build because Model 3 is inefficient. But then you have the Highland, so around 20,000 makes sense for the cost to me. But I could be wrong.
20,000, man, that's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
To build a car. Yeah.
Yeah, but now, did you guys end up watching the connecting the dots video about Highland Park and how it connects with Project Highland?
I haven't watched that yet. No.
So I highly recommend it. Breaks it all down, and wondering if this Project Highland is a manufacturing process that is going to cut costs, which would then allow it to come down and have that $20,000 cost to be able to produce this vehicle. And then again, if you pair that with the Gen 3 platform, if that platform is going to be like almost a modular base where you put the battery into it, and then it's a matchbox car where you're just like, hey, here's the top, just plop it on top to whatever base you need, that would be ideal. So I'm wondering if those two are going to end up playing together and creating that lower cost structure and just being able to scale at mass scale like they've been looking to do for Master Plan Part 3.
You're talking about the Highland, right?
Yeah.
Well, according to Joe, again, Model 3 is a whole different thing. So it's very interesting to see.
Yeah, and that's what I'm wondering, because I mean, we've been talking about, Project Highland as, this upgrade to the Model 3. So just wondering, I don't know. I'm just, there's so much, and obviously we're going to find out a lot of this next week, hopefully. And then the next piece we talk about that goes along with it is energy. Energy is still the thing that's sort of flying under the radar. How much do you think that's going to be playing into Investor Day next week?
I think energy will definitely be part of it, for sure. Because I mean, if you're scaling batteries, you gotta scale it for everything. They just unveiled this Megapack 2 XL product that's been ramping. They said, hey, we can make 10,000 of these a year, or whatever that number was, 8,000 of them a year. So it's definitely going to be part of the discussion. I wonder how much focus there's going to be around the energy products themselves. It's probably going to be more around how we're securing the supply chain so that we can have the raw materials and whatever else is needed to scale to whatever 1 terawatt hour of energy in 10 years, whatever, or battery production per year in 10 years. So that's definitely going to be part of the discussion. Real quick on the Highland, though, I do think the Highland, the Model 3, is going to be more around a refresh, like just the tweet said, a basic refresh, not basic, but something that's really going to bring the Model 3, the chassis and the sort of look of it to be a little bit more modern, similar to how the Model S and X were refreshed recently with the Plaid stuff. Okay. Because if you think about the Model 3 platform itself, it's almost 7-8 years old. And it uses a lot of manufacturing processes that have been cleaned up over time that Sandy Monroe poo-pooed pretty heavily when it was first unveiled. So, and then the release of Model Y that was significantly cleaner and much, much more cohesive and much more representative of where Tesla was going from an engineering perspective. And so getting the Model 3 to be modernized based on that, which is obviously going to make it a better quality, but also lower the cost, that makes a lot more sense to me. And there could be things they can borrow from doing that and put it into the compact car which is what Tesla is known for. You know, they're known for taking a thing and using it for the next thing, taking a thing and using it for the next thing. So, but I do wonder how much of it will be. I do think the game-changing stuff is not going to be in Highland. It's going to be its own separate thing, just like the exoskeleton for the Cybertruck is its own separate thing.
All right. Yeah, that sounds right.
I
and
could
so
be wrong.
now, I mean, and everybody's guess is obviously just a guess. We won't know until they actually unveil anything.
Except for Pejjy. Pejjy has facts all day.
Oh, of course he does. You know, he
Oh,
knows
man.
he knows all the information.
Only about the stock price, man. Don't
Pejjy and Joe, they know everything. So speaking of stock price, then Pejjy, what do you think? Thoughts on the stock price after Investor Day? Presumably minimal downside as Wall Street isn't expecting much, but potential big upside.
Well, look, if you look at the history of how Tesla, unveils their thing, Investor Day and other events that they do, the day after, usually it dips because all the Wall Street guys go like, yeah, we want to see numbers. We want to see how they're going to keep scaling, and we want to see how they're going to keep making money. But then they show other things. Now, most likely in this Investor Day, I personally believe a new vehicle, it's not going to be like the Model 3, how they said, yeah, we have this new vehicle. You can do pre-order right now. I don't think they're going to do that because, for example, if I'm a customer and I want to get a vehicle, if that's the case, if they're going to have a new platform that's like 25,000, then I'll just wait for a couple more years. And, that's going to hurt the deliveries and productions and the demand for Tesla in the short term. So I don't think they will do that. Most likely they'll just go like, here's a skeleton of what we're working on. This is how it looks like. They'll probably show like an animation picture of it as well. And we plan to mass this, produce this in scale in the next couple of years, and then you guys can, probably pre-order in the next couple of years or so. But I think majority of the event is going to be talked about scaling, battery, just about that, about the Master Plan 3, how Elon did say that it's mainly based on scaling, on how they can take to the 20 million mark. That's what I believe, really. So I think everyone is waiting to see the unveil of the new generation platform, but I think we're just going to see the skeleton of it, to be honest, and a picture of how it's going to look like.
Yeah, there's been a lot of like buy the rumor, sell the news, kind of behavior with Tesla in the past. And again, I don't necessarily try to focus on short-term or medium-term price movements. I'm more about 5-10 years out. What could the company look like? And try to build a model based on that. But there, in the past, there has been buy the rumor, sell the news. I think the only way the stock, in my opinion, not financial advice, moves short-term is if we go into the event with relatively low expectations from big money managers and Wall Street, and then Tesla blows the roof, the top off the thing by saying that by 2025 we expect to be shipping somewhere between 6 to 8 million cars per year. Like, it has to be stat sort of guidance that really tries to solidify the growth prospects of Tesla and what it means to have a compact car potentially that could be making 20% margin on top of full self-driving, on top of energy, and really making that vision super crystallized and easy to understand for people so that they are convinced that in the next 5 to 10 years, Tesla will get to $100 billion of net income per year. It has to be something like that for it to go up. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen next week, right? That's a tall task.
Yeah, and as Heaven Guy says here, is Master Plan Part 3 about stockholders or the world? And as Elon had tweeted out, he said it's for all investors. It's not just Tesla stock investors. It's for anyone who is basically a human in the world in the future. And so, to your point, Farzad, my thoughts are, if Tesla comes out with something next week and says, hey, within the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to have X, Y, and Z, and we're going to be producing this number of vehicles, and we're going to have this much profit coming in, Wall Street will pay attention to that. If they're going to be talking about something, hey, 5-10 years down the road, this is our plan to get us to what we wanted to do by 2030, Wall Street's going to be like, all right, great, that's awesome, but we don't care because we only look out 12 months anyway. And so I think we may end up getting a sell the rumor type of situation or sell the news, just because of the fact that that's how Elon thinks. Elon doesn't think about tomorrow. He doesn't care about the stock movements in the near term. He thinks about changing the world in the future. And that's what I think we're going to see a lot of that tomorrow, next week.
I do wonder, you just kind of like made me think through something. I do wonder if, because that tweet, I don't know if you can find it, but that tweet where he talked about the investor day thing, right? Where it's more about the people of the world and how all of us can come together to figure out how to move the world to a sustainable future. This is pure speculation. Please, I'm just throwing ideas out there, thinking out loud. I wonder how much of that may point to maybe on investor day, Tesla's going to open up some sort of thing where businesses and individuals could literally invest into manufacturing or platforms that Tesla's going to be creating that's going to be the lowest cost possible to achieve that. Like, for example, this compact car is really not a actual compact car. It's what it is. It's the platform for a compact car, and they're going to make it extremely easy for anybody to buy that platform from Tesla and make their own EV version of on that platform. You know, like the whole thing that's been speculated around, like Tesla becoming the powertrain and battery supplier for a lot of these companies. And maybe that's how they get to 20 million per year. It's like, we're not going to care about building the car. We're just going to build the chassis and the drivetrain and the batteries. And you can invest in this future. You can literally be an investor day by saying, okay, I'm going to hitch your ride on your scale, and I'm going to come out with my own car. Speculation.
Wow.
I don't know.
I mean, that's almost like it's like buying a kit car, but in scale. So
exactly.
Wow.
And then that way Tesla could offload the responsibility of manufacturing. And you think about what's Tesla been extremely good at to get scale is by no part. You know, the best part is no part. So the best car is no car. Okay. So just give them the batteries, give them the. I just speculation, dude. Like I just a thought that came to mind.
Is this the tweet?
I'm not sure which one.
Looking forward to Tesla Investor Day on March 1st. By this, we mean the broadcast broadest definition of investor, as in the people and life of Earth. It'll be a message of good hope and positivity for the world, for the future.
I don't know. It's just speculation, but yeah.
Oh yeah. So then my thoughts on that, Farzad, looking at it, would be the whole drive chain and chassis makes sense, but the fact that they've invested as much money in Idra and gigapresses would lead me to believe that if they were, I mean, maybe they're going to stick with their meat and potatoes and maybe use that as an option, just like FSD. They're going to use it in their own vehicles, but they will license it out. So perhaps the Generation 3 platform is going to be something similar where they're going to use it for their own production. But if somebody else wants to take it as well, then they can certainly do that. And
that would only work if they are able to get their battery and drivetrain production to be at a higher rate than what they're estimating their production capacity will be to actually build a car. So if they can build more batteries and drivetrains than they can cars, then at that point it makes sense to license, right? Because why else would you handicap yourself? Like what is the capacity rate for building a car versus building just a battery and a drivetrain? One would think it'd be much easier to just crank those things out. And if you have a surplus of those things, you should sell them or license them out for people to use. And that's right. And maybe that's what Master Plan Part 3 is like, we're just going to get our capacity around the core components, the battery and the drivetrain, to be so ridiculous that even if we wanted to build 40 million cars per year, it would take us, we would be sitting on these parts. So instead of us sitting on these parts, we're just going to figure out how to get them out into the world.
Yeah, and when we hit 2025 and Toyota is still trying to figure out how to get theirs out there, they can be like, oh, we'll just take Tesla's drivetrain and we'll go with that.
Exactly. I don't know.
That would make sense. I mean, think about the fact that I think it was Toyota and GM, you know, you look at the Corolla, and I can't remember which GM with that Geo, I think it was Geo Prism, had like basically the exact same build. They just came from, I think they may have both come from Fremont. I'm not sure. But yeah, that was the same thing. You know, a lot of them use the same chassis, same bodies. You know, obviously GM with Chevy and GM products do that a lot. Yeah. So it would make sense to just take the platform and go with it, especially if it's going to be a platform like a Matchbox car where it's like, hey, here's the bottom. All you got to do is just slap a shell on it and you're good to go.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, Pejjy, we'll change things up a little bit here. So you had your video recently about a Tesla splits. So share a little bit about what you think is coming up in the next decade with splits. We've got Investor Day telling us what's going to happen over the next decade. So what do you think we're going to see for splits?
Oh, well, I'm convinced that easily we'll see another 2 splits in this decade, easily. And well, look, the way I do my analysis when it comes to stocks and, you know, figuring out what the stock price could be, it's a whole bunch of things, right? First of all, you got obviously the sales, the profits of the company, and what they're going to deliver as we go forward. But then we also got things because Tesla is a global brand, right? It's not only just a a US company or whatever. It's a global brand. It's all around the world, and so you have to talk about geopolitics as well sometimes. For example, the reason why I do believe, well, let's give it a 20% probability that there potentially could be a stock split in 2024 is because, again, I am convinced that in 2024, we're going to be in a violent bull market. I mean, everything is pointing to it. I'm looking at it in all different angles. Even if Russia decides to do another, offensive in Ukraine, all the cards, Putin's cards are on the table. There's nothing much he can really do unless he uses nukes. If he does, it was nice knowing y'all. But
at that point, the stock market's not going to matter much.
Yeah,
yeah,
Tesla's
exactly,
the least of our
right?
worries.
Yeah, but I doubt that's going to happen. And inflation was a big stock market killer in 2022 because you got interest rates going up, inflation going crazy, quantitative tightening. In 2024, I don't see that happening. In fact, I mean, we're seeing inflation coming down pretty darn nicely. I think we're going to see another couple more interest rates. Then we're going to pause. Then we're going to continue to see inflation keep going down. Again, if Russia starts to do anything, there's a massive oil cap on Russia. There's a massive, I mean, Europe's not taking any more of their supply. So, I mean, the prices won't be going high, I'm guessing, unless OPEC does something. Or unless China invades Taiwan. I mean, that'll be a whole different thing, but I doubt that'll happen either. So everything's pointing to it. Inflation's coming down month over month. By 2024, if we go into a massive bull market, we can easily see the excitement, the FOMO rushing into growth stocks like Tesla, Nvidia, and all those other growth stocks. And we can potentially see Tesla stock reaching a PE of 100 again, which, everyone's going to come out and say, oh my God, it's overvalued again. But welcome to the bull market, and Tesla is a different breed. And at that time, by end of 2024, if they're at 100 PE, that's $800 per share. And I do believe at that time, if it stays in the 800 to 700, they could potentially be an announcement of a stock split by end of 2024, beginning of 2025. We'll see what happens. Again, I'm giving this a 20-25% chance possibility.
And what do you think the ratio of the split's going to be?
4 for 1.
Wow, a 4. Okay.
Yeah, 4 for 1. If it goes to 800, and if they want to keep it in the low 100 ranges, because they did mention something like that in the early stock splits, a 4 for 1. Unless it goes up to 1,000 again, then easy another 5 for 1. All depends. But I know. For a fact, we're gonna have a couple of stock splits, and I know Farzad's gonna back me up here as well.
Well, I think there'll be stock splits for sure at some point this decade, maybe multiple. But I guess my question is, what's the biggest, like, what are you looking at that's really jumping out that's telling you that there will be a raging bull market next year? Like, what is that big signal you're seeing?
Oh, so 2024, well, actually this year, if inflation continues to go down the way it is now, even though this month wasn't as great as we want it to be, it's still going down. And if it continues to go down to that, I don't know, 2% mark, 1% mark, or maybe it goes to deflation mode, we could see the Fed pivot in a way that could be first cutting interest rates, then in 2024 doing the quantitative easing. Once they do the quantitative easing again, then we can see a rally go again, because then it's, the money printer starts to go off again. So that's what I believe.
What are you seeing that's saying that inflation would go down to those levels?
Well, again, we got energies that we got the energy down as well. We're also seeing the only thing that's really not that's keeping, well, the reason why this month wasn't as great as we wanted to be was because of I guess you could say unemployment was at an all-time low. So hopefully by end of the year we can see a better take on that, because that's let me find that chart, because that chart was actually really nice.
The only reason I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I promise. What I'm trying to do is that I'm seeing the opposite on my side. Like, what I'm concerned about is that we are going to go into a recession that's going to be pretty severe, because I'm seeing pointers that say, credit card debt is at an all-time high, car payments are at an all-time high, But then unemployment is at an all-time low. So what happens once unemployment reaches a normalized level? Like people can barely afford everything already. So what happens when 2 to 3% of the workforce loses their jobs? It seems like it's going to be a pretty severe spiral. So that's why I'm curious, unless people are like, screw it, I'm just going to keep taking on the debt and I'll figure it out. It becomes a psychology game of just humans humaning. Then I can see that happening. It's just the metrics are scary.
Yeah, and then when I look
I'm
at
seeing.
when we're taking on the consumer debt, we have to remember too that credit card rates are now pushing 30%. So it's extremely
crazy.
expensive debt. So yeah, it's extremely expensive debt that people are taking on right now. So if people are going into deeper debt, now savings are climbing as well. But when you start getting into, we haven't gotten to mass layoffs outside of tech yet. So tech is laying off, but we haven't seen many elsewhere. Disney laid off 7,500. But when you start seeing bigger layoffs coming, that's less people that have jobs to be able to pay off that debt. People are then going to start filing bankruptcies, and we still haven't seen zombie companies get washed out yet. So I do still think we have some time. What's this chart you got here, Pejjy?
Yeah, so this is the inflation chart. We did peak out in July of 2022. I think this was around like 8%, 8.5%. Now we're slowly coming down. So we can say that inflation has peaked, and we know that the stock market is forward-looking. So the stock market would really care about, now this is based on my experience in the stock market, that if we continue to see the inflation going down and down and down, even if we go into a severe recession, stock market is not going to care because it's a future-looking, it's a forward-looking metric. So they're going to, I think in 2022, we saw probably one of the worst years when it comes to the stock market. I mean, things were dropping 60, 70, 80%. And now they're slowly coming back up to life because they're like, okay, it's oversold. And obviously we can't, freaking Tesla stock at $100. Like, come on, you serious? And this was with other stocks too, the Netflix and Meta and all these other cash generative companies. So we can see some people, some investors coming out of the fear and being more realistic with the stock prices. But going back to the inflation rate, I do believe that the more inflation goes down, the more bullish the stock market is going to get, because they will continue. The investors will go like, okay, if inflation is going down, that means interest rates are not going to continue to be hiked as much. We can potentially see a pause, and this could take till end of this whole year. But as soon as we reach that 2% rate, that 1% rate, I do expect some sort of a pivot in the Fed. It has to be. They can't keep interest rates at 5-6%. That's ridiculous. And as soon as they do this cut, even though it's 0.5, 0.1, we can see people and investors be more comfortable with the stock market and come in. And then in 2024, when everything is more stable, we can expect to see the in my opinion, I'm not too sure if this will happen or not, but I do expect the Fed to go in more, instead of quantitative tightening, they can do quantitative easing slowly. And that's where I do believe that we can see a big bull run in 2024.
So is recession not part of your equation then? Are you just looking strictly at what the Fed's doing?
Yes, I'm looking strictly what the Fed's doing, because if you look at the 2008, 2009 crash that we had, we bottomed in 2009 in the middle of all the craziness. So it's just forward looking. So that's what I think.
So you think we're past the worst of it, is basically what you're saying? Like as far as like recession?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Only because inflation is coming down nicely. I hope I'm right too.
You're right.
I hope I'm right too. But also looking at like geopolitical stuff and looking at all that stuff, there's really nothing else that can really push inflation higher. You know what I mean? I think that's why I'm saying that the worst is behind us, in my opinion. I'm still an optimistic guy. I could be worse. I could be wrong, but that's why I'm giving it a 20 to 25% chance, like this possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're going to see inflation continue to come down. I know we saw the revisions from last year, which didn't make it look as pretty. I almost wonder how the market would have reacted last year if we got the true numbers in versus the numbers that we were given. But looking at how we're trending right now, knowing that after the housing recession, we were basically at 0% interest rates until 2016. That's like 7 years of 0% interest rates. So that's a lot of liquidity that was put into the market. I know Chamath said they need to keep interest rates high for 6 to 7 years to try and flush all of that out. I mean, even looking at what the Fed has been telling us, they haven't really changed what they've said. Their average median rate that they think they want to go up to is about 5.1%. That might go up again when they have the next FOMC meeting in March, might push that up to 5.25% to 5.5%. And if that's the case, they're probably going to end up keeping those rates at that level until this time next year. At that point, they would come down, and by the end of 2024, have them around 4.25% to 4.5%. That's still really high for 2024, even though we are moving in that direction, and that would technically be a pivot. I still don't know if the market, if they're looking out 6 to 12 months, it's still high interest rates. And taking into account that if we keep them that high, we start flushing out zombie companies, people start getting laid off, employment starts to balance itself, then, I think we'll end up hitting that recessionary point. How deep it's going to be, I don't know. But there's going to be a lot of people holding. I mean, you guys know as content creators that advertising revenue is just trash right now, because that's the first thing that a lot of people do is, they cut advertising spending. That's just, the smartest place to cut their revenue or cut their costs. So they do that. And so you're going to end up seeing that transpire over the next couple of years. And then in 2025, they said by the end of that year, it'll be like 3.5%, which is still high. So we're still looking at relatively high interest rates till probably 2026. So I think if we do start a bull market, and this is my opinion, if we do start it, I think it might start in 2024, but be very slow. It's not going to be as aggressive as you see it. I think we're going to have a lot of time and a slow come out of this and not that V-shaped bounce.
Yeah. I also think it's going to be, I agree with you, Tim. I think, Pejjy, what you're saying has merit, because if there really is, if the economy is okay and people aren't losing their jobs in droves, and the Fed decides to lower interest rates because there is pretty strong, what does Jerome Powell call it? Disinflation or even deflation. Then you will see a movement. Yeah, like people will move their cash away from these assets that just generate returns based on the interest rate mechanism versus just putting it in stocks. I think regardless of whatever happens, and this is sort of what I think Tim is alluding to, especially with the All In podcast, where Chamath talks about this stuff. If you don't listen to this, guys that are listening, please go listen to the All In podcast. Such a freaking good show. It's unbelievable. It's going to be a stock picker's economy. I think there will be certain companies that will do really, really well in a sort of weird time in the economy where those companies are getting flushed out, and good companies that are lean, smart about capital allocation, good at attracting talent, efficient, focused on products that bring value, are thinking about a long-term plan for their products. Those are the kinds of companies that are going to do extremely well. And then super bonus points if you're doing it profitably. And that's where I think Tesla... Yeah, that's where I think Tesla has potential, right? And I'm not going to try to guess what that will do to the stock, but if the company can do that, at some point the market will reward it. But I don't know if that's next year or in 2025 or in 2026. But as long as those mechanisms are in place, and this is why I usually have a 5 or 10 year time horizon, as long as you have those that mechanisms and you have the luxury of waiting, you will be rewarded. It's impossible to know when that is.
Oh yeah.
Another thing is that, sorry, Tim, but another thing is that the stock market likes certainty. So if we know that the Fed's going to keep the rate at 5%, okay, great. This is what's going to be for the next few years. Then then I know that it's going to be 5%. I'm going to pivot the way that I can pivot. But then if all of a sudden we get an increase to 5.5%, that's uncertainty. So this also affects it a lot. So if that's what I'm saying, if we can get, if we're going to get another 2 interest hikes to, I don't know, 5.5%, maybe just 5.2, 5%, whatever the rate is going to be, and pause, I think that's going to be a bullish signal for the stock market, in my opinion.
And the Fed could always drop it by 2% if it gets crazy, right? If the economy starts to bottom out.
Right, yeah. And that's what Jerome Powell had alluded to as well, is, it's easier for them to flip the switch and go back and reverse it the other way than it is to try and keep it under control slowly and lightly. So they'd rather be more aggressive to get it in line. And I think their goal is to try and get interest rates higher than inflation. So if they can get that to 5.5%, and have interest rates be there when inflation starts coming underneath it, then I feel like they'll be comfortable kind of squashing it down at that point. I think that's what they're really looking for. And as Jay Lizard here says, in Pejjy's defense, recession is a politician killer. Politicians are still running things across the board. And don't forget, in 2024, we've got the elections. So you've got an election year, and they all want to look good for the elections.
The last thing Biden wants is a recession. So he's going to do everything he absolutely can to make sure that it doesn't appear like there's one. Not even that there isn't one. To try to make it as beautiful as possible.
What do we got here, Pejjy?
So this is the interest rates compared to the stock market. So as you can see, like for example, let's take the 2001 crash, right? We had interest rates high as, what is that? That's like 6.5% right here. And then when the stock market, when there was and this was a roar, right? We had a massive roar going. It was the dot-com bubble where they said anything with dot-com has it. It's bullish, to throw money at it, you'll make money. And interest rates were high because they were trying to, slow down demand. And then what happened? It crashed. They drew interest rates. Look at that. It went down and went down. And then again, 2004, 5, 6, interest rates kept going higher, higher, higher. And we had that same, little FOMO going on there that anyone can get a loan, go get a house, don't worry about your record. And then, it leveled off. The interest rate leveled off at around like, what is that? 5.5%, just around. Wow, it's actually about now. That's crazy. And then the housing market crashed. Everything went down. Look at the interest rates. It went to flipping zero.
But what happened every time? But what happened every time there, Pejjy? The stock market crashed. Every time interest rates peaked, the stock market crashed.
Yeah.
So if interest rates are peaking, shouldn't the stock market crash based on that same data point?
Well, not all the time. If we go back and, if we go back here, we've had interest rates as high as 10%, and we had stocks rallying at these times.
You didn't have the tech sector though.
Yeah, we didn't have the tech sector, right? I don't know. Let's take a look at 2019 when it was only 2. Then we had the COVID crash. Then we had to go back to zero. That was a different story. But I don't know. I'm not convinced we're going to see this crash again. I don't know. I don't know.
And looking at that myself, just looking at how long those interest rates were down and how fast you look at it over that decade period, you see how quickly it skyrockets. And to Chamov's point, that's a lot of liquidity in the market that needs to get flushed out. And so we might see a sideways market for 3 to 4 years with a lot of swing trading going on. It could be a great time for swing trading and accumulating shares. This could be one of those things where for me, I'm anticipating the pullback. So I'm not going to short the stock, but I will certainly wait. And when it comes a bit lower, I'll load up heavier and just keep on buying every single day and just load up more when it comes down. I think we're going to swing like that quite a bit for a while.
Go back to the all view, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Like to Tim's point, if you go from 2008, which is when we had the 2009, where we had the collapse, all the way through 2016 ish, we had
2016. Come on, 2015. There we go. 2016.
6 years of zero interest rates.
Yeah, that's
and by the way, 2016 just happened to be the same exact year that Warren Buffett decided to buy Apple.
Okay. Yes. But then what happened here? But then when you look at whoa, what happened?
I'm gonna
refresh it.
Yeah. You broke the chart. We're looking at it too hard.
Yeah.
Analyzing too deep.
Yeah. But the thing is, when you look over here, we had slowly interest rates hikes going on, but we were still in the bullish market. Like this, it went to 2.4% in 2019. Really, we were in a bull market until we had the COVID thing happen, which was a black swan. No one knew this was
true.
So,
and don't forget,
I don't like this chart.
Don't forget that 2.4% is right around where the Fed wants it to be. That's the ideal level, is 2 to 2.5%. So that's where they want to have the interest rates at to spur on the economy to keep it growing. Clearly we've been growing, but now to kind of offset the growth that we saw during COVID because of zero interest rates again, we've got to kind of just balance it off. So it's going to be sort of like when you take a rubber band and you snap it, it's going to flop and then slowly it's going to come back to level. That's what's going to end up happening with the market over time. We've gone high, we're swinging down, and slowly over time, the rubber band is going to get itself back to level and not bouncing. We're just going through the bounces right now. So we're going to swing, I think, but it's going to swing less severely over time.
Can we do a simple exercise here? Or just very, very curious. What was the real quick? Just it will take 1 minute. Can you pull that up again? The screen.
Oh yeah,
for me, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So what was the price in 1990? This is the S&P 500.
Yeah, it's the S&P 500. S&P 500 versus interest rates, federal interest rates, fund rates.
What was the S&P price on 1990 or 1980? If you just hover your mouse over 1980 for S&P,
like $13.
No, that's the
interest rates.
funds rate. There you go. 111.
Yeah. Sorry, 100.
And then what was the? Okay, perfect. And that was 1980, right? And we're in 2023. Yeah. So we are okay. And what is the average rate of return on the S&P? 8%.
Here it's 8%. Yeah, 8 to 10%. Yeah, could do 8.
Okay, so let's do 8%. So that was how many years? 1.08 to the power of
42, based upon my age.
42. Okay.
Oh wow, you were born in 1989?
I was born in 79.
Okay, so there is So based on 1980 returns, and again, this is just stupid math. But I just want to put it within context.
No, I like
if the average rate of return, if this my specialty is stupid math. If the S&P 500, so it was at 111 in 1980, and it experienced 8% rate of return for 42 years, you would have a 25 times fold in pricing roughly, which would put the S&P 500, if the average rate of return continued at that pace since 1980, at 2,812. So what's the current price right now?
Just almost 4,000.
Almost $4,000,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this would insinuate, if we just use that math, and if that math is correct, like some of the classical math guys will tell you, is that the S&P is oversold or overbought, because for the last 42 years, it has outpaced the average rate of return of 8%. But again, rate of returns change depending on what market, what's in the S&P. How does the economy grow? How does technology change it? The speed of technology, the speed of innovation, developing nations, what's included, what's not included, right? But I just wanted to throw that number out there, because that's when I try to think about things in this way, I try to contextualize it versus, okay, what does the average say? What does the average say? And so this would say that the S&P today is roughly, again, this is stupid math, but this is how my brain works because I'm stupid. It's 42% above average from 1980 if you're going to assume 8% rate of return. But I'm not saying it's going to go down. I'm just saying that's what it says. That's it.
Yeah. But you also got to put in the equation of exponential growth as well, because if you look for the past 30 years, how
that's what that is.
Humans, sorry,
that's what that is. That 8% year over year is exponential.
Yeah, but you said 42% something.
Well, it's 42%. The 4,000%, the $4,000 price from today for S&P versus the 8% year over year growth that you would have seen on average since 1980, if that was what the S&P was actually going to happen. What was actually going to happen? It puts the price at $2,800. But that $2,800 assumed an exponential of 8% year over year return. But this is where it gets weird, right? If I do say 9% rate of return, right? It's at 4,100. So a 1% change year over year changes the number drastically.
Right.
But I think it's fascinating to look at it that way, because it's like, okay, so based on what your understanding is of how the S&P should be behaving, today's price could be put within context versus how it should have trended for the last 40 years. And I'm not saying this is a helpful exercise. I'm just saying this might be something to keep in mind when we're thinking about where the S&P is today. But again.
Oh yeah, and then when you take another factor into it, like you said, when it comes to tech and how that, the rate of growth grows from there, go to the late 90s and the internet made everything just move much faster. So maybe the rate of growth between 1980 and 2000 was around 8%, but from 2000 to now, maybe it's 10%. So the numbers we're looking at now are relatively where they should be, maybe, again, just rough math. And then you start looking at what is AI going to do to us in the future? If
Right.
Optimus does come out and do its thing, what is that
Exactly.
going to do? You know, Elon says, you know, GDP is based upon, or it's all based upon, you know, productivity. So if there's unlimited GDP, then you have unlimited economies. So, you know, all of these different factors that get thrown out there, you know, what has the internet done to the S&P? Has it actually given us that rate of growth that's faster strictly because the internet moved everything faster?
Great points. Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
man, I could only imagine. I mean, I've made a list of things that I could do with the Tesla bot. It's not even funny.
No.
So,
I just
and
want to
we
do
now,
laundry.
now we haven't heard much about Optimus lately. Do you guys think we're going to see any of Optimus at Investor Day?
What do you think, Pejjy?
I think it's gonna be well, if they're gonna talk about the world and, you know, humanity, I think so. I think we're gonna see some Optimus stuff, in my opinion. What do you think, Farzad?
I want to see it walk.
Yes,
That's all
I
I
know.
want to see.
I want to see Optimus.
You
We
wanna see
saw we
Yeah.
saw Bumblebee walk, but I want to see Optimus
Yeah.
take some steps.
After they do that, I'll be happy. Like for me, Investor Day is done. Just have it. Literally, they came to have it walk out in the first minute, and I'll just turn it off. I'm like, okay, my life is made. I'm good.
You know what I
Yeah.
don't like about, you know, people talk about negatively about the bots, saying things like, oh, you know, they're gonna take my job, they're gonna do this. It's like, well, you know, not really. You could use the bot to do so many flipping things that it's not the amount of money you can make using a bot.
I think it's more complex than that.
Oh, jeez.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
It's
think
more
it's going to be
complex than
one of
that.
those.
I think.
I think it'll be optional. I think, you know, people will still be able to work if they want to. But again, it's going to take so long to get to that point. Most people that are around now are going to be retired by the time Optimus gets to a point where it's actually going to be taking jobs as people fear.
I think it's all about who has access to that technology. I think if most people don't have access to the technology because it's too expensive, I think it's the opposite. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think it will literally steal jobs away, and humans will be left to some lower class life versus those that are able to leverage that technology. Because you imagine this, right? If you are in a situation where the right now, say I get paid $35,000 a year or $40,000 a year building a house as a construction work. I don't even know if they get paid that much, but let's just assume they get 40 grand a year. And Tesla bot comes along that costs $20,000 to $25,000 to produce, and then they're like, well, the cost of labor for a laborer over 5 years is $200,000. So I'm going to sell you this bot for $100,000. You save 50% over 5 years. Who's going to be able to afford a $100,000 bot? Nobody. And so only the companies and people that can afford that will basically get an exponential on their ability to generate value. And it's exclusively up to them to decide if they want to share that with the rest of society. And humans are typically very greedy. And that's where I get extremely scared. So this thing has to be affordable for the masses. Otherwise, we're screwed. That's how I think about it.
And
Yeah,
that's
if
the
you
hard
put it
part
that
too.
way, then, yeah, but the way I'm thinking about it is that, you know, anyone can get a bot. You know, anybody can get a bot.
Where's the mechanism that guarantees that?
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's all speculating. So it's like, for example, for me, let's say 10 years from now, the bot is out. Oh, cool. I can get that thing to run my Airbnb, for example, right? I can get that thing to, you know, make a shoveling snow business. I don't know, whatever. That's how I'm thinking about it. But if it's only companies that's doing it, then that's pretty darn scary, because then we can see some of that happen. But if it's available to anybody and everybody, well, then, man, the possibilities are endless. You know.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
If
Well,
it's
and just think about like any companies out there, manufacturing companies, everything. You know, why are we so afraid of people coming across the border? Because they're afraid of them taking our jobs because we can pay them less. Think about how many jobs in manufacturing have been automated. You know, even Tesla themselves, they're, you know, bringing in, you know, the gigapress to remove other robots. So it's not just, you know, people getting replaced, it's robots getting replaced with robots. So that is a reality that we're going to see, because that's the bottom line. Is the bottom line. What are your costs? If you can bring in labor for $20,000 to $25,000 a year versus paying somebody $40,000 a year, you know, you're going to do that. And not only that, but Optimus, you know, what's the upkeep on it? It's going to be almost nothing. So you're going to be able to bring it in, and that is a one-time purchase for an employee. You're not paying it annually. You're paying it one time. And so that's going to be a huge cost cutter. But that's where I think Elon also alluded to having UBI as well. So if you've got universal basic income, then people can be happy. If you want to do more to earn more, that's great. And it kind of gives you the freedom of time. But to Farzad's point, are companies actually going to utilize that for that purpose? Or are they just going to let people live on the streets? That's time will tell on that one. Oh,
we'll figure it out without. We'll have to figure it out without the freaking bot. That's basically what would happen.
Yeah. Got a tweet from Tesla. Apparently, California Engineering HQ announcement with Elon Musk and Gavin Newsom.
I just posted a tweet on the private chat from the Tesla account.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
There it is. All right, cool. Yeah, so
15 minutes before my Dan Ives interview. They should put their schedule around mine. Damn it!
I thought you had a one-on-one tight with Elon. Couldn't you just text him?
Oh yeah, no, I did already, but he's like, "Screw you, bro. I'm not gonna do whatever I want because I'm Elon." No, of course I don't have his number.
Oh man,
hit me up, Elon, if you want to be friends.
Hey, he sees your tweets a lot, so that's awesome.
That's been cool, man. I mean, it's listen, I try not to really view Elon as this sort of like, I mean, obviously he's brilliant in his very own ways, and he's a human being who's trying to figure it out just like the rest of us. But that's how I view him, honestly. And I worked for his company. I know what the culture is like. I've emailed him at the company a few times. He's responded, which was like, okay, well, how do you find the time to do that? But great that you did.
Oh, I know.
So I think it's cool. I think it's cool that he engages a community the way he does. It's really I don't know. It's very cool. It's unique.
Yeah, and I like that. And and he promotes it over on Twitter as well to all other CEOs. Like he's not just like hey, it's all about me. It's like, hey, if you guys want your businesses to grow, be a human already. And that's really what it is. And he's just leading by example, which is awesome. Yeah, it was just be a human. I loved what he had tweeted the other day about just that. It's, it'd be a nice world where people can be themselves and not try to be who other people think they should be.
That was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge. That was a very powerful message. And I hope people take that to heart because it's like at the core of it, that's how you build trust. Just be transparent in who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. Just be real. That's all it is. Like, and that's one of the reasons why I feel like I can trust him so much more. And obviously I don't trust anybody 100%. It's not just wise to do that anyway.
Yeah.
But either way, it's like somebody who's going to be that open about who he is and just doesn't give a crap. That to me is so much more important than somebody coming out like a Mary Barra or most politicians who are just trying to be, very politically correct and perfect. We aren't perfect, people.
A bunch of puppets.
It's annoying.
Man. Come on.
It's very annoying. It's so obvious,
Yeah. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. And one of the greatest things that somebody always reminded me of is whenever you think you're having a bad day, just remember that even the Pope has had explosive diarrhea. So,
how do you know?
Pretty sure it happened.
How dare you make such an assumption?
So it's like we are all human people. Just go out there and be human.
Speaking of that, like how are the wipes coming along, Oracle?
Oh, fantastic! Oh, I highly recommend them. I'll give them a shout out. Butt wipes, if you guys haven't used them. If
this
that's
man, bro, this man got sponsored.
Were you just turned on this? You were just turned on this? Where have you been?
Well, so
let me take it a step further, bro. Bidet. Take it to the bidet
that's
house.
My next step. I'm gonna go with the bidet. I'm gonna try that one out as well. But I just have to be making some new videos, just some shorts, some wisdom, funny stuff that I've been throwing out there just from the crapper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I threw it out there, and this company reached out to me. I was like, this is phenomenal. So they sent me some stuff. I tried it out. They're pretty darn good.
It's life changing, dude. It's great for traveling. I'm sorry for TMI. It's great for traveling. Take it with you on the plane. Take it with you on a hotel, bro. Everywhere you go. Yep, keep it clean.
I'm starting up my racing again as well. So when I start doing my racing, I'll be bringing that with me because
Sick.
I gotta tell you the porta potty toilet paper. Oh man, that's like single ply. It's like wiping with a whisper.
Yeah, or sandpaper, depending on which one you're going on. God. Welcome, guys, to our weekly poop podcast.
Here in the Middle East, we don't use those things. We use I'm sure you guys. The hose, we use that.
It's like a bidet.
Blessing. Oh, that's a bidet. Oh, wow.
What kind of? It's like a. I call it the ghetto bidet.
It's a rudimentary bidet.
Yeah. We had those. I mean, when I visited Iran, I remember everybody had a hose. Dude, so it's kind of like
it's a blessing. Yeah. It's a flipping blessing. Except it's summertime. The summertime is like boiling water. Nah.
Yeah.
Can't do it. Yeah.
Facts.
Oh yeah.
This is great.
Yes.
Screw Tesla. Let's talk about bidets.
Oh man, well, it's almost time for you to go anyway, Farzad. So we'll wrap it up here. That's a good place to end it right there. So
Yeah.
thank you guys so much for being on. This was an awesome time. Definitely, if you guys are going to be down in Austin, check out Farzad and the big event that he's got going on down there. I will put the link in the description as well for you guys to register for that.
Yes.
Man, I wish I was back on North America, man. I would definitely go, but
next time. This is actually tied to the Austin Owners Tesla Club as well. It's really their 10th year anniversary, and they're asking me to be part of the host. So it's really thanks to them for putting this event together and getting the whole Tesla community together. So if you're in Austin, again, if you're Austin on Investor Day and you don't have a ticket, even if you have a ticket to the Investor Day afterwards, swing by Clive. We're hosting a panel. We're hosting a bunch of talks, pre-show coverage or pre-Investor Day coverage, post-Investor Day coverage, and we're doing it live, just like Bill O'Reilly did that one time. F it, we're doing it live, okay? Right from Clive. Thank you. Thank you for having me, man.
Live from Clive. This is awesome, guys. Thank you so much. If you don't follow Pejjy, follow him, Curious Pejjy, and we will see you guys later.